Look, I believe everyone has heard of this concept of, you know, that motivation comes and goes. You shouldn't rely on motivation, you should rely on discipline. It shouldn't be a thing that you care about that much, and it shouldn't be the goal because emotions come and go. Like, we've all heard these things, but the thing is, we gotta understand that motivation has really become more of a rare thing in recent times, in recent decades. Ever since we started frying our brains with cheap dopamine, what this has done for us, or done to us, I would say, is it has made us more reliant on motivation because our default state is extremely unmotivated, depressed, sad, no stimuli, overstimulated from the wrong things, of course. And yeah, and that has led to us making motivation this thing that we don't have as often, and we have to rely on discipline right now to do what we need to do. Back in the day with our ancestors, they never really struggled with the motivation. They always had motivation. They were always motivated to do the right things. They were always motivated to take care of their families. They were always motivated to work hard because their minds weren't extremely stimulated all of the time. Their minds weren't cluttered with bullshit and cheap dopamine. They were just, normal. They had normal minds that weren't overstimulated, a great baseline dopamine. And that's how they were able to find joy in simple things and find motivation in simple things. And motivation wasn't even a thing back then. It was just something everyone had. It was the default state. Now motivation has become this concept of something that you're not all of the time. You're only motivated maybe 10-20% of the time, if you're lucky. And this is caused by the overstimulation, the cheap dopamine we subject ourselves to day in and day out. And this is ruining our minds slowly but surely. It's making us worse individuals. It's making us less prone to, feel happiness and feel joy, feel motivation from simple things. Right now, when we can get everything so easily, when we can get the reward so easily, why should we work? We can just, pick up our phone and start scrolling, start watching videos, watching movies, podcasts, TV shows. We get our dopamine from there. We don't really need to work hard anymore. We can just get it from cheap sources, right? And this is an unnatural way of getting your dopamine, which in turn will make you depressed and sadder as an individual because you're stimulating yourself too often. So you have these highs, and then you dip below your previous baseline dopamine. So your baseline dopamine, what is required to make you feel satisfied, just goes lower and lower and lower every time you subject yourself to cheap dopamine. And this puts you in a perpetual state of feeling depressed and feeling sad. So working doesn't feel like the best thing to do because now you have to earn your dopamine, whereas otherwise, normally, you can just get it immediately. So why would you work? So the concept of motivation comes in as a thing you will feel, where you will feel like working hard at certain moments, 10-20% of the time. Say 10% of the time, right? Because I think 20 is a little bit too often. So 10% of the time you'll feel motivated because your mind is overstimulated. You'll feel motivated to do something productive. Whereas again, this wasn't a thing back in the day. There was no motivation. The default state was motivation. Like being motivated. There was no need for discipline. There was no need to do things you didn't feel like doing because everyone felt like doing the things they were supposed to do. Because that was the simple joys in life. You worked hard, you came home to your family, and that was just part of life. Now everything is, in terms of stimulation, everything is so easy to acquire. You can just stimulate yourself in an instance. And this is the problem. This is where everything has gone wrong. This is why everyone is so depressed. Why everyone's talking about motivation as if it's a thing that is super rare when it's not supposed to be. When it's something we just, that's been a thing over the last few decades. Since the launch of all these things that can stimulate us on the go, like TV shows, like movies, porn, scrolling, whatever it may be, right? These things didn't really be, like, used to be problems. So yeah, a little food for thought. So if you want to feel motivated all the time, I think you know what you need to do. Because this is how your ancestors felt. They were always motivated. They always did the things they needed to do. There was no procrastination. There was no feeling the need, to rely on discipline. Discipline wasn't a thing back then. It wasn't. Obviously, everyone did what they were supposed to do, but they didn't need to discipline themselves. It was just a way of life. Motivation was the default state. And you can feel like that too, but you got to rewire your brain. The way you rewire your brain is by cutting all the bullshit out. All the noise, all the distractions, all the vices, the bad habits. So that's going to be, of course, again, scrolling, alcohol, drugs, porn, movies, going out, junk food, whatever it may be. If you cut all of that out, in the beginning, you'll feel extremely bored, like nothing makes sense. And if you can go through that boredom and make that your new default state, you'll start finding the work to be super fun. You'll start finding the work to be super enjoyable because you've gone through the boredom. That is now your default state. Your brain is rewired. Now, this is your default state. So your baseline dopamine is much higher now. And everything starts feeling fun. Having a conversation with your mom feels enjoyable. Training feels enjoyable. Working on your goals, building your businesses, feels enjoyable. Things you didn't feel in the past. So cut this whole thing out that you need to rely on discipline and, motivation is just something you feel once in a while. It doesn't have to be like that. If you rewire your brain and cut out all the weakness that ruins your life slowly but surely, that makes you not feel like you have to fight to get your dopamine. You can just get it in an instance. You remove all of that, then fighting for your dopamine becomes the default, and now you'll start enjoying life at a different level. Now you won't be able to wait until you get to go to work, because you'll know that is your form of stimulation. Your work is the stimulation. That's how you get the reward from now on. And that's going to feel amazing. It's going to feel like, damn, nice. I can do this thing and I will feel good about myself. And my life will get better at the same time. Whereas right now, you're just consuming something. It makes you feel better in the short term, but it doesn't make your life better. It just makes your life worse, in fact. But the real dopamine, the good dopamine, makes you feel good, plus it makes your life better at the same time. So again, I think you know what you need to do. Go on a dopamine detox. Cut out all the bullshit and start phasing everything out fully. All the bad habits, you don't need them. They're slowing you down. They're making your life worse. They're robbing you of that natural default state of motivation. You want to feel motivated all the time. It's an amazing feeling where you don't feel like you need to escape and get some cheap dopamine to feel good about yourself, and that you need to rely on discipline. That's the feeling you want. Just default state of motivation. That's it. So start cutting shit out, and you can thank me later. But I think you're gonna notice a massive difference in your life and the way you feel. And I wish you all the best. I'll see you next time. Cheers, guys.